Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about redesigning one of the labs that was found in the Resident Evil 4 remake. My idea regarding that lab, if you've watched one of my previous videos when I go into describing the fact that the comms tower and the subsequent lab that was found underneath it or in the bottom levels did not make much of a sense to me. So in this video I am basically taking the initiative, or however you want to call it, to kind of try to redesign that whole area and maybe redesign the lore, remix a few things around, and try to see if I can come up with something new while staying true to the original idea and somehow incorporating the laser room into the lab as well. So, a little bit about my thought process. Here, I was trying to make this particular lab a little bit more important in regards to its function and operation. So, that's why immediately I go for the main piece of the lab, which is going to be the amber deposit. And if you've played the game and you know a little bit of the lore, you will know that the amber is something that was found in the game, possibly by Luis, or it could be also his colleague in the game, which I keep forgetting her name. I know it's a female scientist, and she's also in this piece as well, but I always keep forgetting her name. So let's just call her, I don't know, Amy or something for the time being until I come up with a better name or I just look up her name in the game. I'm too lazy for that, apparently. But, anyways, my thing is, I wanted to go straight for the main piece, which is going to be an amber deposit, just to give this lab a little bit more importance. Because if you remember, in the comms tower section, what they were doing inside the lab was basically trying to come up with a new creature that was ultimately dubbed Martinico, and they have used the amber to basically make that creature immortal and invincible to conventional weaponry. So I was thinking maybe we could incorporate the amber somehow into this area, and also to show that they have been working on the Martinico creatures, or whatever you want to call them. Of course, they don't really look the same as the one found in the video game when you look at the art on display. But I was trying to basically incorporate that idea into this whole lab as well. And I know there's also the concept of black goo that was found underneath Castle Salazar in this piece, because I thought if the goo would have been black, it would have been very hard to read in the thumbnail and also in the art itself. So I decided to go for a purplish color mixed with a little bit of, darker purple and also lighter purple. But consider that liquid the black goo that is found within the game. It's just for the purposes of this art piece, of this concept art, whatever you want to call it. I decided to go for a purplish color. And also try to see if I can incorporate that into the vats. So you'll see that there is piping coming from the purple goo, in this case, into the vats to kind of feed the creatures the purple stuff and make them grow stronger and grow faster, however you want to call it. So yeah, maybe in this particular lab they were doing that, and the head researcher, the female scientist, was basically doing that. And we know that in the game, towards the end, you will find out that she was also offered to take the subordinate plaga or the dominant plaga by Sadler. I could be mistaken, but she was offered that towards the end. Or if she refused, she, I think, would have been dealt with. So I guess that was an offer that she couldn't refuse. But she was ultimately, I think, taken out by Martinico because it was rampaging through the whole area. But anyways, I decided to show her in her later stage of infection by the Las Plagas, and that's why you'll see her in the middle of the lab, with a bunch of wrapped skulls, let's say, in front of her, and all the candle imagery that you can see found throughout the game. You can also see them here as well. So my idea was to try to incorporate the whole cultist thing into this somewhat high-tech lab as well. So I know it's kind of hard to cram everything into one drawing and try to make sense of it all. But at the same time, I tried to do it, see if it fits within the thumbnail dimensions that YouTube also imposes on us. It was a good exercise, I would say, of trying to see if I can come up with something readable enough, and I got it to this place. But anyways, my thing here overall is, as opposed to the lab that you can find in Martinico's level, which was basically, at the bottom of the comms tower, and for some reason the head researcher moved everything there, and it wasn't really elaborated on why and how. I decided to make this area completely different area, cut off from the comms tower. It's in its own place. It's in its own lab, basically, and it's a little bit more important because the head researcher has complete access to the amber, and that's where she's making the stuff. That's where she's making the vats, the creatures that go inside the vats, and as you can see, it has a onloading, offloading area as well, which I'm gonna add later, and basically just to show that there has been some transport going on here, and they are trying to also store the purple goo, the black goo stuff in the barrels as well for transfer to other labs, other areas, possibly other places outside of Spain and outside of the island. So yeah, I was thinking about all of that when I was doing this piece of let's just say world building, and because I really like to expand on the stuff that I enjoy. What if instead of a few notes in the game, we would actually come in contact as Ada after the laser room, and we actually come in contact with that head researcher who is now basically lost her mind completely to the Las Plagas infection, and now you would have to deal with her as well inside her lab, basically. I think it would have been cool. Or it would have been cool if she was basically another character that you interacted with before her infection, and you would have the choice to kind of convince her to see things your way, or just leave her to her devices and she will eventually turn and become Sadler's lackey. Now you would have to basically deal with her in order to progress through the game. So these are some ideas that I was thinking about while I was cooking up this piece of concept art, let's say. It would have been cool to see such ideations, such ideas from the developers themselves, but because I know they were trying to stay true to the material, introducing a whole new character, I guess would have been out of their scope, especially for the DLC, because I was thinking about what if Ada would come across such a character. But if they also put it in the main game, I think that would have also been workable, but development time I don't think would have allowed for that. But since they had enough development time to come up with Martinico, I would assume that they would probably have a little bit time as well to create a whole new character, even if for, I don't know, for a few shots, for a few scenes in the game, she could have been used. She would probably be treated like, let's say, what was that woman's name back in RE2? She was William Birkin's wife, basically. Annette Birkin. So yeah, I think she would probably be treated like her. She would have a few cutscenes to elaborate on her story and her interactions with other characters, and then after that, she basically dies off screen or dies on screen or whatever. So not very, not very in depth, but also in depth enough so that way you will remember that okay, such a character existed and we had an interaction with her, and that is her fate. So I think that would have been better. That would have been much cooler than what we finally got in the final product of Resident Evil 4 remake. And yeah, one thing that really disappointed me was basically this whole lab area with a new creature that really didn't house anything else of importance, and it basically had the laser room attached to it for some reason, because I guess you want to keep intruders out of the comms tower. I get it, but that whole laser room with the comms tower, that whole laser room with the lab area could have been much more elaborate and detailed. Hell, maybe you could have made the lab in a way that Martinico would have had more of a chance to roam around and basically cause havoc and cause trouble for you by mainly chasing you or pursuing you throughout the level. But I guess, again, maybe this wasn't the right idea to begin with at all, and they just didn't have enough budget or production time to make things happen. But back to the thing, back to the art, let's say. So I try to keep things simple here, because if I wanted to go into too much detail, then I'm afraid this would have taken a lot longer, and my skill level I don't think is going to be, efficient or sufficient for me to be able to basically, make it more realistic. So that's why you see a stylized version of everything that you see in the game, including Ada, the crazy scientist, everything else is basically stylized. This is just mainly for world building and, adding a little bit of flavor to the game, to the game's world. Because, I love the game's world, to be honest. That's why I'm making these videos. I'm really inspired by Resident Evil. Even though as a kid, when I first played it, I was scared to death. But at the same time, I thought it was quite cool, and it affected me in a lot of ways, And yeah, so coming full circle after all these years, I guess producing art for the game that I love is kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. So adding a little bit of backstory to the whole head scientist thing and why the amber is there, and it was transported there in order for her to kind of make her new creatures, make the new Martinicos or whatever they're called. I think this would give it more context. This would definitely give it more context. And the laser room is incorporated in a way. Of course, you don't see much of it because you've already seen enough of it in the game. So it is here acting as an entrance to the main lab area. And of course, towards the back of the art, I also decided to incorporate a little bit of the ancient architecture. I know this is probably going to be in the island area, but I was thinking maybe because the settlers were exiled to the island, according to the lore, maybe they had settlements underground that they used for, either day-to-day living, or maybe they had settlements to basically torture and maim their would-be rivals or opponents or whatever, right? So I decided to incorporate a little bit of that as well, and try to give context to how the amber was basically excavated from the area. So that's why you see a little pickaxe. Of course, it's not enough. If you want to really go deep into it, then you would have to probably do a whole other piece just to show how they excavated the amber from the lower levels of the island. According to my lore, it's not. It's basically fan lore, not actual lore. But anyways, if you wanted to show how the amber was first excavated, you would need another art piece just to show how it was excavated in the lower levels of the island or in the underground levels of the island. So, but here I just alluded to it by adding that old area, and you see the old pillars there, just to kind of show that okay, this area is ancient, and the lab and everything else was kind of added to it later on, and then they discovered the amber, or I should say rediscovered the amber, because I think it was discovered back in the day as well by Salazar's. But anyways, they rediscovered it there, and now it is situated inside this lab, and it's been harvested, and also the black goo is being harvested as well. So these two things in tandem are what's helping the Los Iluminados achieve their nefarious goals, let's just say, and it's making them mass produce all these monsters and whatnot. So yeah, this was my train of thought. I hope it makes sense. At the same time, if you guys like this kind of content, please like, share, subscribe, consider doing all of that or none of it. I appreciate it nonetheless. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and have a good day, good night, and I will see you again in the next one. Thanks.